What is up, everybody? It's your girl Jada Reeds here, aka Diamond, back with another video. But first, if this is your first time seeing my face or knowing of my existence, my name is Diamond. I go by Jada Reeds on this channel, and over here I like to do reading vlogs, book reviews, and everything in between. So if that is something that you are interested in, I think you should consider subscribing. Today we are going to be talking about books that I have DNF'd this year. Mainly, but there are a couple that I have not talked about, nor have I discussed, that I DNF'd right at the cusp of last year. So we're gonna just go ahead and add those in because I think they'd be great to add to the video and the discussion. And so yeah, I want to talk. I'm going to go into books that are basically soft DNF and books that are extremely hard, and I might have to rag on some of the books in particular just to share my thoughts, feelings, views, and opinions. Okay, so let's go with the ones that I have not discussed that I DNF'd last year. Okay, so at the tail end of last year, maybe around November, October, end of October, November-ish, I DNF'd 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I will not be continuing on in this book. Also, I just want to say this. I'm going to be holding my microphone for the foreseeable future because I have broken the thingy on the back that you're supposed to be able to clasp it. I don't know how I did that. I keep this inside of the little pouch all the time, and I keep it in my bag, whatever bag that I'm carrying, because you never know when you're gonna need your camera and your microphone. And next thing I know, I go to grab it and the thing is loose, and then it just pops off, and I'm super irritated because I am very gentle and delicate with my things, especially my electronics. So for the fact that I broke this, I'm very mad at myself. So I am pretentiously going to have to hold this in all of my videos because I am not buying a new one, and that's just what it is. So in case you're wondering why is she now holding this, because typically when I'm about to talk about the books or grab the books, I just clasp this to here and then I go in. But no, now my hands are not as free as I want them to be. Okay, so back to 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. Okay, so I DNF'd this book because for one reason, I didn't really understand it. One thing about me, I will always say that I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm not the brightest bulb in the tanning bed, but I do think that I have a great sense of style when it comes to certain writers, and I can read between the lines. I do a very good job of seeing what the author's trying to tell me as I follow along with the narrative of the story. But for this one, I just couldn't grasp the concept of what he's trying to tell me about this family, and I hated the incest parts of it to the point where it just was becoming really hard to read. So the chapters are not there's no physical number for each chapter, but I DNF'd this book at chapter 9, which is page 161. And it just was a slog to get through, and it was such a chore. And I really couldn't stand the writing style either. I don't know if it was not being translated properly for me with the translator, who I want to highlight the translator. Hold on. So it's translated by Gregory Rabassa. Modern classic or not, I just don't like it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Someone who has read 100 Years of Solitude and made it through to the end of it, please make me understand. I even went and watched one of Emma's books. I think she did a reading vlog on this, and I was just let me go and watch her and see what she has to say about the novel and see if I can comprehend or understand why people love it so much. And I still couldn't find or fix myself to read this book. I even purchased the audiobook to try to read the audiobook alongside the physical copy, and it still was not translating to me. It is extremely boring, and I don't know. I don't like it. So if you have not heard of this book or don't know what it is, let me just read what it says here. 100 Years of Solitude tells the story of the rise and fall, birth and death of the mythical town of Mukando through the history of the Buendia family. Inventive, amusing, magnetic, sad, and alive with unforgettable men and women, brimming with truth, compassion, and a lyrical magic that strikes the soul, this novel is a masterpiece in the art of fiction. 100 Years of Solitude is the first piece of literature since the book of Genesis that should be required reading for the entire human race. Don't agree with that at all. Mr. Garcia Marquez has done nothing less than to create in the reader a sense of all its profound, meaningful, and meaningless life. This book is meaningless to me. Give me 1 second. We are going to go on Goodreads because I know for a fact it's not just a me thing, right? It's not. I'm not gonna go for like the worst comments in the world, but I am gonna read some like 2 and 3 star reviews just so we can see. Okay, so the first one that pops up that's very popular, I must have missed something. Either that or some wicked hypnotist has tricked the world and quite a few of my friends, it would seem, into believing that 100 Years of Solitude is a great novel. How did this happen? 100 Years of Solitude is not a great novel. In fact, I'm not even sure it qualifies as a novel at all. Rather, it reads like a 450-page outline for a novel which accidentally got published instead of the published product. Oops. Don't get me wrong, I'm not disputing that Marquez has an imaginative mind. He does unquestionably, nor am I disputing that he knows how to come up with an interesting story. He obviously does, or this wouldn't be the hugely popular book it is. As far as I'm concerned, though, he forgot to put the finishing touches to this story. In his rush to get the bare bones of the paper, he forgot to add the things which bring a story alive, which, as you know, dialogue, emotions, motivations, character arcs, pretty basic things really. By focusing on the external side of things and by never allowing his characters to speak for themselves, the dialogue in the book amounts to about 5 pages, if that. Marquez keeps his reader from getting to know its characters and from understanding why they do the things that they do. And that could quite possibly be the reason why this book did not resonate with me, because I like stories that give me a sense of who the people are that I'm reading about. And 100 Years of Solitude is more so centered around the history of the mythical town of Mukando and why it is what it is and why there's a revolving door of an idea about the town. And then we get like descriptions of the people, and like I said, the whole incest thing and all that stuff, it's like second to me to what I am interested in when it comes to giving my time to a book. So yeah, I'm going to read a little bit of one more. I was a kid watching an episode of Thundercats in which a few of the cats were trapped in some... No, we're not going to read this. Here we go. I had a similar experience with 100 Years of Solitude. Gypsies bring items to Mukando, a village hidden away from mass civilization by miles of swamp and mountains. These everyday items are interpreted as magic by people who have never been or never seen them, and it forces the reader to reconfigure her perception of much of what she formerly found ordinary, amazing. And then the gypsies bring a magic carpet, a real one, that works, and there is no distinction. So I'm at page 200 and I'm going to rush. I'm going to push on, but it's tough. Do I care when someone dies? I don't know what this guy is telling me, but yeah, we're going to X this one out. But basically he feels that this is one of the most beloved books of all time, and I'm not so arrogant to discount the word of all these people and not so blind to see the joy that it brings to so many people, but I don't get it, and it aggressively aggravates me. Pretty much my sentiments exactly. All right, so let's go to the next book that I DNF'd last year. It is Boulder by Eva Baltazar. This was a YouTube darling, especially for the literary fiction girls. And so I was influenced and behooved to pick it up because I didn't like being left out. I wanted to understand what was going on and why people love this book so much. And I honestly liked it, but didn't like it enough to finish it. As you can see, it is a short little darling. And I made it halfway through to page 49. And I just couldn't it was just like, once again, when I start feeling like a book is a chore, I'm not going to pick it up, because reading is something that I do in my spare time, which we don't have a lot of that. And if I'm going to sit patient and be like engulfed in a story, I want to like the story, and I wasn't liking this story. I don't know, it was just something, so maybe because it was so raw and uncut, and the narrator is like truly expressing her feelings about not wanting to become a parent, and it was just so, I don't know, like. And another thing that comes to my mind when I was reading this is just like, what is it? Please don't take this the wrong way, but it was just like, why are people that I'm so interested in on the internet, why do they love this book so much? And what does that kind of say about them and their personalities? And maybe would we mesh if I met you in person? And that kind of had me to thinking like, I don't know. I don't want to go too deep into my personal thoughts, because it's just like, I don't want to be divisive on the internet, especially in the booktube space. But it was just like, what's the disconnect? Even like with 100 Years of Solitude, it's just like, books are made for us to like, enjoy, of course, but also to discuss and to talk about, and everyone doesn't have to love everything that you love or like what you like, but there has to be some like common ground, I think, especially if you are interested in the person. And I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it just wasn't. With this one, I started to rethink some of my quote unquote favorite booktubers. It's my sentiments. So it says it's about a cook on a merchant ship. She comes to know and love Samsa, a woman who gives her the nickname Boulder. When Samsa gets a job in, I don't know, the town, and the couple decides to move in together, Samsa declares that she wants to have a child now that they are settled. She is already 40 and can't bear to let the opportunity pass her by. Boulder is less enthused, but doesn't know how to say no, and so finds herself dragged along on a journey that feels as thankless to her as it is alien. With motherhood changing Samsa into a stranger, Boulder must decide where her priorities lie, and whether her desire for love can ever truly trump her yearning for freedom. In Boulder, Eva Balthazar again demonstrates her preeminence as a chronicler of queer voices struggling to be heard in a hostile world, and in language as brittle and beautiful as that of an ancient saga. So let's read what some other people have to say about Boulder by Eva Balthazar. So Boulder is sitting at a 3.9 star on Goodreads, and naturally I want to find people who are like-minded to me, meaning 2 to 3 stars, mainly 2. First one that pops out at me: somewhere along the way, I fell out of love with the writing style and lost interest in the story. With everything that happened, I was pretty bored for most of the book. I went in thinking it would be a quick read, but it was a struggle to keep reading to the end. It also felt bogged down with similes and metaphors that didn't really add anything. And I could honestly agree. I couldn't agree more. And I think Eva's like a poet also, if I'm not mistaken, and so that was probably what was going on. It just started to turn a little bit more poetic, and I wasn't really feeling it. I don't really read poetry like that. Another person says, I think this has to be one of the most cliche things I've ever read on motherhood and couples after parenthood. Also, the amount of objectification of other persons in the book just for the sake of sex. It was just one more. Very poet tries writing a novel, derogatory for me, extremely overridden with underdeveloped characters, plot, etc., and what it's touching on in terms of motherhood, partnership, sex, whatever felt so surface level and uninteresting to the point that I felt hostile towards having to read it, which I know I didn't have to finish, but my compulsions say otherwise. Maybe it's a translation's fault, but I'll never know. So at least these guys, they finished the book. I didn't finish the book, and those sentiments of the last 3 comments were mine also. And I have to say, this is there probably was such a huge disconnect because I'm a mother. And so when you're reading about people who don't desire something that you already have obtained, it could kind of throw you off or throw you for a loop, because their understanding of what motherhood is totally different from yours, because they haven't experienced that. And there is nothing wrong with making the decision to not want to parent another human being. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I honestly wish more people would make that choice or that decision. Not for nothing, but everyone isn't supposed to be a parent. But I just think the rawness of this character just gave me a bad taste in general, and that's why I was not moved to pick it up after 45 pages, and I probably never will. All right, so let's go into the books of this year. So the first book that I DNF'd this year was Either Or by Elif Batuman. This is what we will call a soft DNF. I was in a period of emotional, not distress, but it was just like I was tapping into a different side of me. And I had made it to the portion of the novel where Celine was talking more about sex. I think it was, I stopped on page 184. And she was talking about sex. She was talking with her friends, I think Gavril, Lucas, Katie, and they were just having this intense dialogue about sex and about being more into it or faking it and all of these types of different aspects that I just was truly not interested in. So this one was more of a me thing and not a book thing. I love Elif Batuman's writing. I love The Idiot. It was one of my favorite books 2 years ago. And this one is definitely a top contender for sure, but it just wasn't the right time for me. And that's why I DNF'd it. But I'm definitely gonna come back to it, and I also quite remember everything about it. Because the last time I touched on this book was January, and we're in October, and I haven't forgotten about it. That's how you know a book is good, when you haven't even forgot about it, and it's been like it's over half the year has passed. So I'll come back to this for sure. I probably won't make it to it by the end of the year. I don't know, but it was just a soft DNF for me this year, and I plan to make it back. The second book that I DNF'd this year was Shuggie Bane by Douglas Stewart. I made it to page 233, which was chapter 19, and I just was like, you know what? I'm not about to continue reading about, what's her name? Agatha? I think, her Agnes. This was more about Agnes than Shuggie for me, or I just didn't care about Agnes as much as I wanted to care about Shuggie. It was something very off-putting about this book for me, and I think I've watched other people say that Young Mamba, which is his other book, is what Shuggie Bane wanted to be. I don't know what the person said, but let's look up some. As you guys can see, I'm looking up reviews of the books that people really love that I didn't, because I'm trying to find some connection here, because it's just one of those things where it's just like I just don't get it. And it's not that I don't care about being a leftist when it comes to things that are so popular, but Shuggie Bane won the Booker Prize in 2020, which means it was a beloved book, and academics and literature enthusiasts, they enjoyed this book immensely, and I don't like it, and it kind of makes me feel like I might be stupid or something. So I just want to understand like why. So 1 2-star review says Shuggie Bane is one of those novels where, for me, the form let down the content. That's actually great. This is a story about alcoholism, abuse, and poverty, and it is unremitting in its depiction of those things. For all its heavy subject matter, though, it left me largely impassive. I felt like the more the narrative wanted me to feel, the less I actually felt. The crux of my problem with this novel is its form. That is, its narrative structure and writing style. The writing in Shuggie Bane falls under the weight of its story, not necessarily on a sentence-by-sentence basis, but on a more holistic level. Okay. Someone else says, appreciated the content of this novel, even though I found its delivery lackluster. That's also like a form type of thing. In Shuggie Bane, Douglas Stewart writes a bleak yet realistic novel about a mother with a substance use disorder and her 3 children who love or leave her. Like, I don't know, I found the writing style of this novel a major letdown compared to its content. Another person says, reading Shuggie Bane felt something like hearing a lost Bach cantata for the first time. There are 200 extant Bach cantatas, which might be enough Bach cantatas even for us avid lovers of Bach cantatas. This guy is so funny for that. Update. So now this book has one Booker. Having read it and the discomfort of the evening, I get a feeling that to win a prize right now, it's not enough to just tell a story. You have to tell a story of suffering. Except the suffering in this novel was more based on, to me, Agnes's reality and what it did to her children versus the main character, the book's title. I don't know. There was just a lack of connection between what I went into the book feeling it was supposed to be and what it actually became. And so I didn't want to waste any more of my time. And so I actually don't plan on finishing Shuggie Bane. And this is one of the ones that I'm going to give away. I'm going to give away 100 Years of Solitude, Boulder, and Shuggie Bane. The next book I DNF is a soft DNF. It is Panin by Vladimir Nabokov. So this follows the story of a professor who is from Russia. And he is in the Americas. He is a professor he's in exile from Russia. He's 52 and he's teaching at a college, an American college. And it's a short one as well. And it was a great story, something that I continuously think about and I do want to finish. I don't know if I'm going to get to it this year. I should, but I just don't know. And it just was a soft one. So this book got swallowed up by the novel that is Wolf Hall. I set out to read both of those in a vlog and I ended up focusing more on Wolf Hall and just totally forgot about this book. And I had sat it down somewhere on my desk or something and it just had been sitting there and I'm just like, oh, Panin, I was supposed to read that. And so that's why I added it here because it was a DNF, but it was just a soft DNF. And I like the writing style and I definitely want to get to it. But I think I'm going to have to go for Lolita first. And then maybe following up with this and finishing it will maybe be a good palate cleanser because Lolita is a little bit of a heavier book with, sensitive subject area or subject matter. So we will be finishing her. The next book that I soft DNF. I know y'all are probably tired of me talking or bringing this book up, but it is a part of my life. And it is a soft DNF of Cass, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson. This is a nonfiction account of or story about Isabel Wilkerson leaning away from the idea that America is built on the backs of slavery and racism, and she's moving towards getting the reader to understand that we are more in a caste system that originated in India. And so it's a very popular, widely read book. It even won a Goodreads Award for Best Nonfiction. And it's an amazing story of what America has done and what we have gone through. It's great. And I made it halfway through and I'm going to finish it on audio. It's very heavy too. Gosh. But yeah, it's like a history book in a sense. So it's not something that you could just sit down and read straight through anyway. And if you are super smart and I want to be just like you, but it just wasn't something that I could just make it through, completely without stopping. So soft DNF. It is on my list of books that I have to finish in 2024. And I will. And another soft, listen, everything has been very soft, okay? So the next book that I soft DNF'd and I plan on finishing in the next couple of weeks is actually The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. As I mentioned in the last video that I uploaded, this is a chunker. It's so long. How many pages is this? It's so long. Rounding out at like almost 800 pages. It's not that I was expecting The Secret History. It's a totally different story with totally different vibes, totally different atmosphere. That's not what it is. It's just a little bit underwhelming, and maybe it's because it's longer, so she has to like build you up to like the meat of the story. And that's probably what it was. And it just was like, okay, you know, there's other interesting books right now that are a tad bit shorter that I could like take on, and I did that, and I just put this one over to the side. But I have since started back reading it, and I'm getting back into it slowly but surely. This follows the story of a boy, what's his name? Theo, Theo, he loses his mother at the very beginning of the story. That's not a spoiler. They're inside of an art museum, and it's just a terrible scene of terrorism. And in the event that all this occurs, there's so much happening at one time. This very famous painting called The Goldfinch goes missing. And I'm not spoiling anything by letting you guys know that he has the goldfinch. And so you follow the story of Theo up and down, bobbing and weaving through New York and through other parts of the country, even with his dad, with his painting, and just like the things that he has going on in his life, because he's trying to like just build himself back up from such a great loss of losing his mother. Him and his mom were really close, and the only thing he has like left of her, or the moment of her, is the painting, The Goldfinch, which is of course stolen, and people are trying to find it. And so you just follow that type of story basically. So yeah, it's a good book, honestly. So this was a soft DNF that we have started to pick back up. Okay. Oh, now let's get down to the nitty gritty. Okay, I mentioned that I was going to talk about these books in some videos. If you're an avid watcher of me, you know. So first, I'm going to say I DNF'd Cleopatra and Frankenstein, but see, I read this book last year, so it doesn't count because I read it last year, which I have views and opinions on it. Or no, it wasn't last year. It was a year and a half ago. It was 2 years ago. I also have a vlog about how I feel about this book from when I first read it. And you can go back and watch that if you want to, but we could talk about it now. But Cleopatra and Frankenstein, it's just a lackluster novel. Like, the only thing that's interesting about this book is, to me, Coco Mellors, because she's such a beautiful woman. You know, I looked at her, I saw her for the first time, I was like, this is a really pretty white woman, you know? She's just gorgeous. And I was like, wow, this pretty woman, and she's talented. She's a talented writer. And I want to say Cleopatra and Frankenstein had me going for at least half of the book. So interesting. The characters are phenomenal. I loved Cleo. I love Frank. I like her bestie, who I totally forgot his name because the characters are just like slipping past me right now. But I want to talk about why it was so hard to get through for the second time. Like, I'm mad at myself because it's like I couldn't even get through it, but it's just like my eyes have widened to why I don't like this book. You know, a couple of years ago, I was 2 years younger, and so certain things weren't as pronounced to me back then. My reading taste wasn't refined back then. So I read it, I stuck it out, read it through. I gave it a 3 out of 5 star at the time. Now I don't even rate books, but now I've lived a little bit more life, and I'm starting to really realize that certain books will just not resonate with me and the woman that I'm becoming. And Cleopatra and Frankenstein is one of those novels. So let's go into first some comments about the book. So one person says, I read this because everyone was comparing it to Sally Rooney. Nothing like Sally Rooney, okay? Which I guess is appealing to me. But it brings all the stuff that irks me about Rooney. Whatever, girl. Okay, I don't want to read this because I don't like Sally Rooney slander. One person said it gets better towards the end because it's ending. I totally agree. Sometimes you read books because they have pretty covers, and that's okay. I totally agree. All right, here's another one. Beware of this review, as I find it almost impossible to believe that any reviewer could write one with a straight face. So I'm not even going to try. Since I can't take the book or even my thoughts about it seriously, I'll have a little playful fun, trying not to be too harsh in my poo-poo of it. The beginning was the best part. She quotes a lot of the book. I don't like when reviewers do that because it's giving away things that should be read. Yeah, all right. And when there's a whole cast of family and friends that are broadly described, although they hardly add to the main storyline and remain equally cliched, the mean stepmom, the jealous sister, the gay best friend, sigh. It's a cast right out of a 90s sitcom, and the text is way too long. There is not enough plot or depth to support this many pages. The lives of all of these people, their feelings, and the events they attend feel stale, like deja vu. I wish I could have loved this more. That's a great take. Those are great takes. That's a great take, and that's probably along the lines of what or why I feel the way that I feel, even down to the way that she describes and writes Frank's biracial stepsister. I just wasn't really feeling it, but it's just like I felt like with Coco Miller's, I felt like she felt like she had to incorporate so many different character arcs to appeal to a larger or broader audience, and really, instead of just writing for who is going to enjoy her or writing what she likes to write. Like, for me, it felt like this book felt extremely forced, like she was trying to write a movie instead of a book. You know, books are meant for who they're going to be meant for, and she could have really instilled or incorporated more tidbits about her natural life, and I probably would have loved it even more. Like, you didn't have to add a gay person, you didn't have to add a gay person with a drug addiction and tons of I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Or you didn't have to have Frank's sister didn't have to be biracial. You know, you didn't have to like describe her in such a distinctive way. And she was even a cliche character. You know what I'm saying? Like, why couldn't Frank have had a completely black sister? You know what I mean? Like, who was adopted, you know, something along those lines. And even the age gap romance between Frank and Cleo, I don't know, it was just like it was so meh. Like, it was worse than meh for me. And I started to really see the issues with it the second go round, which is why I was unable to finish it this year. But I read this in anticipation for this, which is Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers. Now, although you can tell that Coco Mellers has matured in her writing, I don't feel like she has matured enough for me to make me like it. And so that's why I was unable to get through this book, which I have a vlog saying, you know, the one where I read Blue Sisters and stopped. I wasn't trying to be funny. This was honestly a waste of my money. And I'm really tired of contemporary novels letting me down, which is why I read so much backlist. Because for one, I read for joy, for fun, and I like to learn through my novels what's going on in the world, or what was going on in the world, and just educate myself in that way. That's why I pick backlisted titles. But all the contemporary books that are coming out right now, they're gonna make me as a person and my age look bad the older that I get. You know what I'm saying? Because these are going to become the classics after that. You know, after the classics, those are classics. These are going to become the classics as we get older, or modern classics as we get older, and they're just not giving what they should give, you know? And they're just letting us down. Like, I don't know. This one just really let me down. There was no connection between any of the sisters for me. I didn't like any of the storylines. I don't like the fact that she incorporated drug use so heavily in here when it comes to, I think, Adrian, and when it comes to Lucky. And I just wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling the gay relationship in here. I don't like the Boxer sisters' perspective. I don't even like what ended up happening to Bonnie, Avery. No, Nikki. Yeah, I just wasn't liking it, y'all. Like, I don't get it. So let's read some reviews. This book is remarkably fine. I don't know. This book thinks it is innovative and important, and I would have to disagree. I don't think that she even thinks that this is innovative, nor does she think that this is important. With Coco Mellers, I feel like she just writes because she has a contract. I think that's what I feel. The last quarter of the book is leagues above the rest of it. Tired of reading this weird girl. Tired of reading this weird girl lit about depressed, beautiful models and Manhattanites who take too many drugs and have too much meaningless sex. I just don't care. It's been done. Find something new, moshfag. Find some new moshfag wannabes. That's harsh. That's actually very harsh. Final thoughts are just meh. The writing itself is pretty good. I was engaged, I guess, but yet upon finishing, I feel no sense of satisfaction of accomplishment. It exists and I read it, and I guess it's a 2.5. Homogeneous review to come. I'm not reading all of that. I'm weary of giving popular or anticipatedly popular books negative reviews out of fear of seemingly falsely contrarian or pretentious, but this book, for all its glorious promise, felt achingly hollow. It also pains me to give such criticism to a fellow Coco. Oh, this girl's name is Coco. To a fellow Coco, but my truth must be said. First, the good. Although trite and predictable at times, Mellor's prose is simply stunning. True. All too true. She paints pictures so beautifully with words. Unfortunately, this is all the books seem to offer. A little aesthetics and a little bit of heart. Its strength to me seemed to lie in creating one heartbreaking scenario after the next. I was astronomically let down to discover that the themes that all this pomp and drama seemed to reveal were those of families love each other and addiction is hard. No other true meat to the story. It is an aesthetic work first and a professional one second. And the aesthetics don't even fit my vibe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, this book was just such a letdown for me. Such a waste of time. I couldn't get past page 75. And I sat and I really, really tried. The sun is coming out. It's really early in the day. It's my off day today, but I can't help but wake up early, you know, on an off day. I can't even lay in bed and just like rot, you know. I just have to get up because my body's telling me to get up. But these are the books that I DNF'd. And out of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them, I'm only keeping 4. I will be giving away Boulder, 100 Years of Solitude, Shuggie Bane, Coco Miller's, both of her books. I don't want them even sitting on my shelf, wasting up space and collecting dust. So if you want them, let me know, and I will send them to you gladly. All right, so back to happy reading, hopefully for the last 2 months of the year. All right, 2.5. And yeah, that's that. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in my next upload. Deuces.